Hello everyone, we are Olga and Dmitry.
We live in Norway and travel with caravan.
It's August now, and we think this is the best time to travel around Norway, because the vacation high season is over. There are not so many tourists. The snow on the trail has definitely melted, and we are going on another trip with our caravan CrazyTroll. From the city of Fredrikstad we drive to Jostedalsbreen Glacier National Park. The journey will take around 8 hours. On the way we plan to stop near one of the ancient stave churches of Viking age in the city of Borgund and visit the longest and deepest fjord in Norway, Sognefjord. But the main purpose of the trip is to hike to the Haugabreen Glacier. But despite the excellent planning, everything went wrong. But let's start from the very beginning.
We hope the weather will be fine, so let's go!
Since the drive is long, we left early in the morning on Thursday to drive through Oslo without unnecessary traffic jams and to stop for the first night near Boyabreen Glacier before the sunset. And it's a well-known fact that a good day begins with a cup of coffee. Therefore, on the way, we left highway for a stop at the gas station.
Morning, road, Dorset, what could be better?
And here our problems began, and there was a feeling that all our plans were ruined before anything began. Emergency repair in Norway is a separate story. Everything is only by appointment. But thanks to the guys from Kroken, we found a service where they promised to help us as quickly as possible. But it turned out that quickly doesn't mean instantly. We were told to wait. We had to grab all perishable products and leave the caravan at workshop.
Well, we left caravan in workshop.
Unexpected, as we bought caravan just a year ago, but there are no jokes with brakes.
A lot of stories and photos with burned caravan in internet.
So now let's wait for the news. But today we just emptied the fridge and now driving back home.
We drove home in depressed mood, because waiting could take an hour or a day. Waiting is always painful and annoying when there was a plan. As the result, the wait dragged on for much longer than we wanted. And good news came only at noon of the next day. We immediately packed and drove off. Our troll was ready to continue the journey.
Well, so we got camper back. We got invoice for 5,000 krones. That's roughly 500 euros. So one side brakes were completely gone because of poor adjustment. So they had actually to change both sides. So, but at least we are okay to go now.
The price for repairs upset us, but these are exceptional circumstances, plus Norway. We did not expect miracles, paid the bill and were ready to go. We loaded the food in the fridge, but already on the positive side with a little of wine, and returned it to the original plan. Absolutely from the same place where the breakdown appeared.
So, what was the latest? Morning road coffee?
Yes, and I hope this time without incidents.
Now we're going to visit one of the oldest stave churches in Norway. They are also called Stavkirke.
And it's located in Borgund.
Let's go!
We planned the trip on Thursday, early in the morning, but left on the Friday afternoon only. And we got the juiciest traffic jams leaving Oslo. Lost a lot of time, tired of getting depressed and upset, realized that there is nothing to lose. We are already in the road trip, saw the field of sunflowers and stopped.
So we just made a short stop to make photos of caravan with sunflowers.
And local farmer gave me the flower! Plus one passenger. Here.
Finally we are out of the main cities and it becomes beautiful. 7 hours on the road and we finally reached Borgund Stave Church. Yeah! So we finally arrived to Borgund Stave Church, but we cannot take a look on it because the territory is closed. We have to buy a ticket, and it is actually open from 10 till 1700. So be attentive planning your road trip. But now the road is closed and we have to wait for safety car, and it comes every
hour.
every hour.
Well, in the meantime, while waiting for the lead car, Olga made some footage of the church. In fact, more than 1500 of these churches were built in Norway, but survived only 28 of them. This church is unique that it has survived without significant changes. Although the main entrance was already closed, Olga sneaked closer through the neighboring graveyard. In the middle of the 20th century, the church in Borgund was covered with resin compound, which is why it turned black so much. In general, an interesting fact that the trees chosen for the construction of this type of churches were kept standing without branches, so that the resin could come out to the surface. And only then they were cut down, which is why these churches have stood for so long time and survived to these days. Although the detour delayed us, we were surprised and fascinated with this road. It went along the canyon and the sheer cliffs hung right above us. In regular day, without roadworks, we wouldn't have gone along it. It became clear why convoys are being formed. In many places, 2 trucks will definitely block the road. At the end of detour, the oncoming convoy was already waiting. Since we were out of our plan, we arrived to the ferry at sunset, but should have already been at the place of our stop for a night under the Boyabreen Glacier. Ferries in Norway are an integral part of the roads. There is often no way to go around, as there is only a fjord further. This ferry crossing over the Sognefjord is interesting because it's fully electric. Do you see this construction? This is the ferry charger. And while loading and unloading, they managed to charge the whole ferry. Since this is electric ferry, there is nearly no vibration during the passage, which is much more comfortable for passengers. Well, since we are on the ferry and we did not manage to reach the glacier at sunset, we need to get most out of what we have and enjoy the sunset on the budget ferry cruise across the Sognefjord. It's so beautiful around. Well, the sun has set behind the horizon and we continue our journey. Although we don't feel the darkness, while on the way we can see cities with beautiful and cozy evening lights against the backdrop of the silhouette of mighty mountains. But in August it gets dark very quickly, and we arrive to the glacier in complete darkness. It's good that we knew this place and stayed here before. Wild camping is allowed in Norway, and if you follow simple rules, you can stay for overnight almost everywhere. This is why we chose a small and rather autonomous caravan with a solar panel on the roof, water, and gas heating. But here, one more hitch. Since we spent the whole day in the car with Olga, this happened. But everything went well here, and the streak of 8,000 steps for over 1400 days was not interrupted. In general, we did not eat the whole day, so it was time to have a bite. Well, or just eat everything we had.
It's cold.
It's always cold near glacier.
Yeah, the glacier is right there. We will take a look tomorrow morning how it looks like.
After a tasty grilled meal, we gained power for the night time lapse of the August sky and glacier.
Olga, wake up.
5 minutes.
Let's go for a walk. In 1993, the glacier was right down to this pile of snow at the height of 200 meters. Now it's on the height of 600 meters and melting as it gets higher and higher.
When you hear that glaciers are melting, it sounds like something very distant, until you see it yourself, and we see it. We were here last year and Boyabreen has lost a lot of mass, and it makes you think. So while we still have the opportunity, let's take a closer look. Boyabreen Glacier is part of the largest glacier in continental Europe, Jostedalsbreen. Justedalsbreen has a lot of glacier arms that we try to visit every summer, but we consider Boyabreen to be one of the easiest to approach. No need to climb a mountain or go on a long hike. The glacier is visible right from the parking lot. It recedes higher and higher every year, but it's still huge. Boyabreen proudly hangs over the valley, which was once created by the glacier. You can enjoy the glacier for a very long time, but we must move on. We hope that today we can see another one, but the path is much more difficult. Therefore, it's time to move to the campsite and leave our caravan there.
Now we are leaving caravan at the campsite and going to Haugabreen.
And we hope to reach the glacier ice.
As a rule, the worst and narrowest roads lead to the most interesting and non-tourist places. And the closer to the beauty, the more difficult the road or even just a trail. So sometimes it's the right decision to leave the caravan at the campsite. And often, where you already don't expect, you meet a toll road, or even a note that the road is not suitable for caravans.
Then it's a private toll road. We have to fill out the form, put 50 crowns and drop in the box.
And the toll road is not a guarantee of a wide lane, quality road surface and safety in general. But more detailed on this on the way back. And now about the hike. I wish I could take everything with me, because you don't know for sure what will come in handy. But comfortable shoes and water are definitely a must. By the way, you can meet an opinion that in Norway you can drink from every tap or a stream. But you shouldn't drink water from the glaciers, because the ice is very ancient. Like in a huge refrigerator, many bacteria are stored, and in such streams like this, they wake up. Melting glaciers also carry a lot of silt, so the water is very muddy, although it has a beautiful blue color. Yes, and everywhere are very cute sheep, and shortly, if you want, you can refresh yourself, but not more. Well, now let's talk about the hike to the glacier. The trail can be divided into two stages. The first stage from the parking lot is lovely and relaxation walking part of the hike along the river in the valley. Sometimes a trail lays through streams, where someone has already placed comfortable stones. The trail is also marked with the red letter T, so it's impossible to get lost. The views around are impressive, but the glacier itself is not visible most of the time. You still have to climb to it. And here is the second part of the trail that begins from the waterfall. The trail goes among round stones with pebbles crumbling underfoot. This is where the comfortable footwear is important. The trail is quite steep with a strong rise, but the views are becoming more beautiful with every meter. And on such climbs, Olga prefers to take hiking poles. She feels much more confident with them, and they saved her many times. Her personal recommendation. In some places, the trail is poorly marked with a lot of alternative trails, leading tourists in the wrong direction. In May or June, when the last winter snow is still melting in the mountains, the trail will be much more difficult. But when traveling in August, just plan more time for a comfortable hike. It's dangerous to rush here.
I'm already here, but Dmitry is still coming.
Oh, it's amazing! It's huge! Let's go closer!
Many tourists meet and greet the glacier from this point, and after taking a couple of photos, end their hike and turn back. But we had a goal to reach the ice. And to get to the glacier, you will need to jump over the streams and deep wet moss. Although at first it doesn't look like that, but waterproof shoes and a good sense of balance will come in handy here.
We finally reached the glacier ice. Take a look.
The first, what you feel when you touch the glacier is cold and the sharpness of edges of the ancient ice. These facets have been forming for millennia. The second, or maybe the first, it's hard to decide, is the color. Deep, blue, glowing from the inside, eye-catching and unusual. You get used that the ice is transparent, but the glacier says no, and you don't even dare to argue being near. And feeling the breath on yourself. And yes, this is the third, the cold. The unbelievable cold in August, and currents of the wind convince you further that the glacier is breathing with a primitive cold. So take warm clothes with you. It's really cold here, even in the summer. And when you have already got used to all this, you hear the crunch. Global, all-embracing, deep and confident. Crunch throughout the whole valley. The glacier moves and lives its own life, and it's so impressive. And now, once you are completely fascinated with the magic of the glacier, you realize how tiny and fragile you are in comparison with it. From afar, when we saw the glacier for the first time, the ice cave that collapsed before our arrival didn't seem to be so big. When hiking between huge mountains, the brain gets confused by the sizes. And when you are close to this cave, only then you understand how huge it is. See for yourself. Getting higher, the glacier opens more and more, and remembering the map, you realize that what we are seeing now is only a tiny part of the Jostedalsbreen Glacier. By the way, Haugabreen is already separated from the main part of the glacier, but it is still extremely spectacular because of its impressive size. After visiting Boyabreen, which looks out over the valley from a 600-meter high cliff, Haugabreen is a rare glacier to which you can come closer, touch, feel and even hear. Another advantage is that it can be done safely enough, since it's lays and does not overhang. There have already been an accident when the glacier swallowed up tourists without a chance for salvation. But anyway, Haugabreen inexorably melts. A strong river flows out from under the glacier, and its vitality runs out drop by drop. Perhaps it will be available for tourists like us for another decade, or it may become dangerous and inaccessible very soon. So hurry to see and touch the history of the planet and its ancient origins. We sincerely wish everyone to experience what we felt today, and it is better to do it outside the tourist season. Today we were alone near the glacier. It was hard to get away from the glacier, and we often looked back in silence. Haugabreen disappeared behind the cliff too quickly, and left alone with itself and eternity. And with every step we took into the valley, it became warmer, the birds sang again, the stream murmured, and we returned to the world of reality.
So we are on the way back to our parking place, and we can summarize that the hike is not very hard. It's moderate and it takes about 3 hours both ways. It's 300 meters incline, and the only hard place is near the waterfall.
It's not hard, you must visit it.
Yeah.
The way back always seems shorter and faster, and soon we were on the parking. It was getting dark, and we began our road down. The plan was to catch the sunset over the fjord. Something went wrong again. We were tired of getting upset, so we focused on positive. The sunset was beautiful. We were lucky that we went from the gravel road and reached asphalt. It was great that the mobile phone coverage reappeared, so we called for assistance and had fun as much as we could while waiting. Nice that we had hot tea with us. Then we used drone to crush a cloud of mosquito that tried to eat us, and even shot priceless and rare footage of how the folk was crossing the road. An hour later, a tow truck arrived, and just after 10 minutes we moved towards the camping. We got a bit frozen, and we're glad that we have good heating in the caravan. So we're back to camping much later than expected.
So, we'll take a rest and good night.
See you tomorrow. Camping was a very good decision. During this day, not only we got tired, but all our batteries were completely discharged. So we're having breakfast in a camping.
In a very beautiful place.
It costs 300 crowns or 30 euros.
And for that money you will get
electricity, water, place to dump grey water, separate house where you will find toilets, shower by token, laundry, kitchen, in general an ordinary camping as elsewhere, but slightly outdated, which is compensated by gorgeous view around. And we set off further.
So, the road was very short.
And now we're visiting Norwegian Museum of Glaciers.
At the entrance to the museum, you are greeted with a severe polar bear, with the human-safe clothes. In the museum, you can find answers to many glacier-related questions. For example, why do glaciers have such a recognizable shape? The glacier melts and moves along the mountain, breaks and forms deep cracks. Why does the glacier has such a color?
Ice absorbs slightly more red and yellow, so it looks a little bit more blue.
And why are melted rivers from the glacier always muddy and have typical blue-gray color? Melt water from the glacier contains small particles of silt, which, like a glacier, absorb certain colors and reflect the blue color visible to our eyes. And by the way, this is silt. And as we mentioned earlier, drinking water from the glacier doesn't worth it. There are also other interesting areas in the Glacier Museum. In the cinema, a beautiful film is shown on a panoramic screen, filmed in different seasons and in different parts of the glacier. And the time travel exposition shows the planet from the moment of the birth of life to present days. And there is something to think about, because only we, ourselves, can correct current ecological situation. Otherwise, it really might be too late. And of course, there is ice in the Glacier Museum, which can be touched, studied, examined, and
Just visited museum. Great movie.
And very interactive exhibition where you can get answers to the questions about the glaciers. So now we are driving to the longest and deepest fjord, Sognefjord.
And we will start with small village Fjærland.
Fjærland is not only a cute town surrounded by towering mountains and ancient glaciers, but we should mention that the whole city is probably the most beautiful and uncommon bookstore in Norway. Books are everywhere, in stores, on endless shelves outside stores, in suitcases, telephone booth, in the fire station, on the pier at the ferry crossing, and even at the bus stop. All books for sale with the expectation of your conscientiousness. You can transfer money for the book you like or just throw into the mailbox. In general, the town is cozy and perfect for a short walk. It is also interesting that the total length of the shelves with the books is longer than the main street. And of course, views around are impressive and the color of the fjord is amazing. But you shouldn't expect anything more from the city than books, 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 and once again, books! Let's go further. Then we planned to go along the fjord and admire the beautiful Sognefjord. Before the trip, we studied the map and saw the fjord was colored with something near the town of Gaupne. And when we zoomed the map, only one question appeared: what is this? So let's go to Gaupne and find it out. The initial study revealed that the water is really super blue. Seems like it glows from the depths. We took the drone to look at the fjord from the height. The color of the water surprised, delighted, and caused the feeling of the Instagram filter in reality. Not very typical for a sea fjord. And so we found this mysterious place from the map, and it looked the same way like on the map. Very strange. But at the same time it mesmerized with its movement and the color, and did not allow to look other than that. I can probably look at it forever. But during a visit to the Glacier Museum, our hypothesis was confirmed. As we expected, this is a man-made and it's a useful engineering solution. People used the energy of melting glaciers and drilled tunnels and chambers for melt water under them in the rock. Then used to generate the electricity, and the used water is discharged into the fjord by flushing tunnels. This is how it looks on the simplified diagram. Well, the color of the fjord is due to the glacier silt that is much more concentrated in this fjord. People also create dams up in the mountains where the glacier water is collected. We were on one of them last year, and this is as far as 40 kilometers away from here. Glaciers are melting, and it's sad, but people learned to use it. We could not even imagine that inside mountains there is a long system of tunnels through which the water passing through all stages of conversion into electrical energy is discharged exactly in this beautiful fjord. Well, while we were filming, I think you have already noticed these kids cheerfully racing on their boats. It's some kind of happiness of Norwegian childhood. To buy a petrol, ride a bike to the pier, and drive for a pleasure along the fjord. And then we continued our journey along the Sognefjord, and it's time to tell a bit about it. Let's start with the meaning of the word fjord. It's a winding and deeply cut into the land sea bay with a high and very steep rocky shores. Most often the length of the fjord is many times its width. The Sognefjord is of glacier origin. It was formed about 2.5 million years ago, when the process of descent of powerful glaciers began. It is the largest and deepest fjord in Norway. In some places the depth reaches 1300 meters. It's also the second largest in the world. There are many towns, villages and farms along the banks of Sognefjord. Due to the winding shape, the landscape changes with every turn. Sheer cliffs give way to meadows and the cities to dense forest. This fjord is definitely worth a visit, as it's delights and it's very impressive, and for sure won't leave indifferent any experienced traveler. But have you noticed this beautiful bridge? It's along this road that we are going further in direction of the ferry. This time we reached the ferry crossing before sunset, and we can better show it to you. By the way, it's also across the Sognefjord. This is how it looks from the air. Do you see anything unusual? Let's take a look at the map. Yes, this small piece of land jammed between a high mountain and the fjord is ferry crossing pier. Then it's only 2 tunnels go into the mountain in opposite directions, and the only options to continue the journey is by ferry. Fully electric, eco-friendly transport, operating 24/7. Well, hours came up, and we are boarding the ferry. We'll say again that the ferry journey is always insanely beautiful. Further along the Sognefjord, we were looking for a place to stop. The sunset was approaching and we couldn't find a good one. But then we found it, a perfect place to stop and summarize the trip.
Fjord, evening, and we enjoying the sunset.
Maybe it's time to finalize the trip? So if you are planning something new, then the problems may start from the very beginning. And that's what happened from the first day of our road trip. But the rest you have seen yourself. And the new is new format of the road trip videos
On YouTube. Hope you will like it.
So how do you like the trip?
I enjoyed the trip very much, but glaciers are melting very fast and it's very sad.
Yeah, it's true. And Boyabreen is melting very fast, and it's completely different glacier arm that we have seen last year. But Haugabreen, it's huge, and it's worth going there for a hike and a visit.
But don't forget to check the weather.
Yeah, that's true. If it's foggy or rainy, then it's a lot of stones that might be slippery. So nothing happens only with those who are sitting at home.
So travel more and travel with us.
See you again!